One subject that seems to be growing ever popular and floating around the manosphere zeitgeist is the retention of semen.
Leave her, Johnny, leave her, oh, leave her.
No, I don't mean that type of naval retention. I mean what's widely referred to as semen retention. And like many things on this platform and on of this topic, is spoken through various incarnations and various perspectives, from the scientific to the alchemical to antiquity to anecdotal experience, from benefits from the most minor all the way to the most miraculous. After 90 days, you'll exude the confidence and allure of Don Juan, achieve the inner stillness and peace of Siddhartha, develop the business savvy of Warren Buffett, and obtain the testosterone levels of your great-great-great-great-grandfather. And I know, judging by the other content on this channel, you could probably assume my position on semen retention and its utility. However, in this video, I thought we could look at semen retention through a slightly more playful lens that looks to bring together the elements of biology, sociology, alchemy, and a light-hearted dose of common fucking sense. This is a party popper, not to be confused with a party pooper. I'm going to leave this here and allow your mind to make assumptions to see what you've already come up with. Anyone remember back to a birthday party or a celebration where you've cocked one of these back, pardon the pun, ready to fire it at the birthday girl or birthday boy in celebration? The anticipation on their face as they await for the eruption and the popping. The male organ and the male sexual energy is very much like having one of these, maybe a constant supply of a party popper in your pants. Obviously not so much of a phallic size or shape that we might want. Many people, particularly in modernity with our hypersexualized nature, because sex sells, we're already dialed in to the impulse and the emotion that's associated to our sexual release and sexual gratification. We want to be partying. We want to be releasing. Woo! Almost like the anticipation of its release is the excitement within itself. And once it's finally popped, all you've got left to do is go and clear it up. Sounding a lot like post-nut clarity and post-nut syndrome for us men. We'll talk about you become more magnetized, you become more energized. It's purely because you're walking around with a party in your pants and you ain't afraid to keep that party to yourself. We're all too quick to necessarily want to release that because of the state of nirvana we feel we achieve in the process of doing so. But how many of us men are just wasting our party poppers on useless means? When you look at the initial stages of dating, or for long-term couples, the date night / honeymoon phase of the beginning of a relationship, the anticipation towards the initial engagement with that date seems to be some of the most exciting times because of that build-up of anticipation. You see men get ready, put their Paco Rabanne on and their aftershave. Ladies taking extra consideration and care in grooming themselves and preparing themselves for this almost event. And you can imagine after 7 days, no wonder that the testosterone spikes for men, because if they haven't released their party popper in that time in a whimsical way of just releasing, then they've got 7 days worth of this excitation, of this anticipatory energy that's been building. If you did it for another 20 days, you'd have so much party just waiting there in your body that it's going to build up that energy for sure. So where does the party start? I like to use this consciousness wheel. I think it's a really good visual. I've used it in videos before because I think it's a nice way of looking at the collective experience of consciousness. I've never really understood what the numbers mean on the outside, but I guess that's where the high vibration, low vibration stuff comes in. But if we look about where majority of us spend our time is in that apathetic state, well, think about that person that's wanting to have a party with themselves. Those men are a bit down on their luck, in that low vibrational state. They hang out in places like apathy, guilt and shame quite a bit. So once they've released the party popper and the party popper's gone bang, they reach this place of desire, which isn't too far away from the place of fear and grief. But it's just enough on a biological point of view for it to be an increase and a change in our state. If post-nut clarity isn't simply the rising and falling of this consciousness between starting off in an apathetic state, a frustrated state, rising up to desire, only to release the party popper to drop back down into guilt and shame again. I guess semen retention wouldn't be useful for someone if when they release their seed, they don't drop to grief, apathy, guilt or shame, but they rise up to joy and stay there. But if you're one of those men potentially that aren't feeling those higher vibrations off the back of releasing your party popper, then maybe semen retention would be a good idea for you. It seems in modernity a lot of us men are uncomfortable with sitting in that place of masculine energy. So for a lot of men, that party then becomes with themselves, or worse yet, between someone through the camera lens in which they try and experience this sense of desire. A lot of men in low vibrational states who take part in efottery not only transfer energy in the monetary sense, but also this masculine energy. And what a buzz for the thought, knowing there's a global party in their honour. Ironic is both parts that after the party popper is released, the male customers often go back to talking about their lives' misery, and the service women go back to being anxious and depressed, despite the abundant adulation and monetary gain. So once that party popper's done, they've risen only really a couple of extra points from where they fucking started off in the beginning. When you look at the word desire and what it truly means, it means to wish or to long for. My special brand of autism sees that I really look into words and get obsessed by their definition, because inside of that oftentimes is that associations that we make. But desire ultimately is a wish, a longing, or a crave, a want. When that need isn't met for a lot of men, maybe because they don't have access to relationships, or maybe they are addicted maybe to pornographic content, things like that, or they're hypersexualized, that place of desire comes from a place of lack. Well known in esoteric circles, and the alchemical process to it, that the male's energy, male's life force energy, follows that of the solar path. Men are solar entities. If a man is healthy, he rises with the sun. Both his reproductive organs do the same. How many men in modernity, the first thing they think about when they wake up is choking their chicken to send it back to sleep again? So you could say that semen retention in a way is harnessing in that solar energy, and being able to sit in that uncomfortableness of that solar heat can be a wonderful catalyst for mental, physical and spiritual progress for whatever metric is observed. This is slightly different from the woman's lunar cycles and her reproductive organs, which sees that the release in an orgasmic energy doesn't maybe have the same depletion. But I guess they've got it unfair in other aspects of their life, haven't they, when it comes to reproductive health? So we'll let them have that one, eh? Because man is a rational animal and he must transcend that animalistic part to himself if he wants to kind of get some agency in his life. And popping his party popper through some tart online that he's never going to meet or sleep with, or as I've said before on the pornographic stuff, releasing your party popper while someone else is having the party and you're just in the corner, yeah, that's not really going to advance forward and get agency over it. If men have wounds in the area of intimacy, energy exchange or self-agency, then maybe semen retention could be a great way of keeping in that solar energy, keeping that party within themselves, maybe only releasing it where it's merited. And we keep that vital energy inwards, that solar energy being charged by the sun, being charged by fresh air, being charged by activity, being charged by an optimized diet. There's no two ways about it. The magnetism will change. I think it's also worth mentioning that recharging also comes from the feminine. Without sounding too cringe, making love or trying to conceive, which is the obvious function of sex in the first place, with a well-adjusted, or a well-adjusted as they can be, woman, or at least in a state of love or joy, is different from it being released celebrating community puss. This normally brings about destruction and debilitation as the lunar power eclipses the power of the sun, aka fucks up the bloke's life. I'm certain women can smell desperation and smell a wanker from far away, and I guess even that curious spirit inside of them becomes a bit confused when you don't smell like a wanker, when you don't treat yourself like a wanker. That energy is reflected. The sun's light is reflected by the moon. It receives the light from the sun. So yes, you will be received differently by the opposite sex because there will be an allure that maybe you won't be able to articulate. But will it give you the courage potentially to go and talk to women if that wasn't the thing you did before, or give you the courage to start taking care of yourself just by default, just by the sheer act of keeping semen in? Not really. Not really. It will give you false hope. But keeping it as a catalyst, keeping it as a practice, and you can see how it would be very, very useful on the road and on the path to taking back the power of man in a world that's trying to demonize, discredit, and trying to disempower and demoralize him. Will you make a business like Warren Buffett from semen retention? No. But will you start questioning where that uncomfortableness part of your life has come from? You're working a job that you hate, and the only way to distract yourself from that job is to tug on your party popper to change that state temporarily to allow you to go asleep or to enjoy other carnal pleasures, then maybe that semen retention may get you to question what you're doing and your purpose in life. Would it give you the testosterone levels of your great-great-granddad? Well, maybe, if you use that solar energy to face up to hardships. Because I'm assuming your great-great-grandfather didn't pop his party popper before going out to till the land or going off to national service. But where it will do an injustice if you think just retaining your seed is a replacement of developing a good, strong character. It won't make you something that you're not, but it is the right stepping stone in this world to take back some form of power that men have been struggling with for the past probably 20 or 30 years. If you're someone who would pop your party popper and you rise up to joy, you rise up to the higher emotional and vibrational state, then maybe semen retention isn't for you. But if you're one of those people that acknowledge that once you have released, you're back into post-nut syndrome, you're back into the lower echelons of guilt and shame, if you're in a perpetual cycle of worrying about this stuff, then maybe it's that right catalyst that you need. So I guess it's a philosophical position. Is it wise to hold the solar party within until it warrants a radiating release? Or is life just one big party? What would your life look like if you kept the solar party in? What would it look like as a collective if us men with the capacity to do so saw this energy exchange in its purest sense, and at the very least become mindful? Would it slow down the profits of the sexualized money market and its institutions given less credence? Would it aid in individual and collective spiritual ascension? Could it mean men become the curators of their destiny and desire instead of just customers? Or at just a bare minimum, build stronger discipline, fortitude and resilience, with fewer need for tissues?